What I have in my hand right now is the scapula. We're continuing on with the upper extremity osteology list. The scapula is an interesting bone. It has 17 different muscles that will attach at some point. That's either origin or insertion, because origin and insertion are two different types of attachment. We need to figure out if this is a left or a right scapula, and the way we're going to do that is to put this into anatomical position. Right now we are in anatomical position. This is superior, inferior. This is our lateral edge. We know this is lateral because of the flat surface here, the ditch or depression, which allows for the articulation of the humerus, the arm. So we want the arms in the outside of our body. That's why that's the lateral edge. And this is medial on this side. This is anterior, the front of the bone. This is posterior. If I turn this around, do you see the spine here on the scapula? This is the part that you can physically see on your body. That's how you know this is the posterior. Having said all that, when we put it in the body, this is going to be our right scapula. That's how you can tell your left from your right. So let's look at some of the individual features on the scapula. We're going to look first on the posterior side. I already mentioned this is the spine of the scapula. At the end of the spine is the rounded edge of the acromion process. If you remember the acromion process, what's going to articulate here is the acromion end of the clavicle. Let me pull this over. I have here. Do you remember our clavicle had a flat sternal edge and a rounded acromial edge? And the rounded acromial edge articulates with the rounded acromion here. Okay, let's take this back and look at our scapula. If we turn this to the lateral side, we see the flat ditch or depression. The word for depression or ditch is fossa in anatomy. This is our glenoid fossa, and the bone that articulates here is the humerus. We see a little round C-shaped bump. This is the coracoid process. Okay, the coracoid process. We're going to look at this later. There are three muscles that we need to know on the coracoid process that originate or insert here. We have the coracobrachialis, which originates, the short head of biceps brachii, which originates here, and pectoralis minor inserts here. So those are three different attachments. Let's go back around to look at this glenoid cavity. I forgot to mention the bump above it and below it. The very top here, we have a supraglenoid tubercle. The supraglenoid tubercle is where we have the origination of biceps brachii, long head. Remember, short head originated on the coracoid process. Long head originates on the supraglenoid tubercle. We go down here, we have the infraglenoid tubercle. What originates here is the long head of triceps brachii. So around the glenoid cavity, we have the supraglenoid tubercle for the long head of biceps brachii origination, and the infraglenoid tubercle for the long head of triceps brachii, the origination. We're going to go back to the posterior surface. Remember, we had the spine of the scapula here. The spine separates a ditch on top and one on bottom. The one on top above the spine is the supraspinous fossa. The one on the bottom below the spine is the infraspinous fossa. We have two muscles that are going to originate here. The one that originates on the supraspinous fossa is supraspinatus. The one that originates on the bottom is the infraspinatus, originating on the infraspinous fossa. We're going to look at a few other bumps and edges along here. I mentioned that this was the lateral edge. Turn this back around to anatomical position. So what we have here is the lateral border, and over here we have the medial border. We have a corner up here. This is the superior angle. And down here we have the inferior angle. The angle is simply where it bends or turns. We have the acromion, the spine, coracoid process, glenoid fossa, supraglenoid tubercle, infraglenoid tubercle, lateral border, superior angle, medial border, inferior angle, supraspinous fossa, infraspinous fossa, and then on the back, I almost forgot to mention our subscapular fossa. And the muscle that is going to originate here would be our subscapularis.